Welcome to Punky's Pro Wrestling. Okay. I am doing, and I'll probably do another video tomorrow, because I need to put together a wrestling news video. This video is about Ashley Massaro. Ashley unfortunately ended her own life. Excuse me. And she was a part of the big class action suit over head injuries. Now, what I didn't know, excuse me, is that this suit was actually brought on, let me get to her, I actually have highlighted portions so that, because I'm not going to read you this whole deposition, I'm really not. It would make for one boring, long video. She was a Raw Divas Search winner. This lawsuit was actually brought about by Joe Laurinaitis. You may recognize that name because he is the brother of John Laurinaitis, better known to wrestling fans as Road Warrior Animal. I was looking for where it says Joe Laurinaitis et al. What that means in the law is and all the other people in the suit. They just usually use the name of the person that started it. And his lawyer turned it into a class action. So, right here, Laurinaitis et al. Versus WWE et al. So, the judge was a female, Judge Vanessa Brandt. Ashley was born May 26, 1979. She won the Divas Search on August 15, 2005. She wrestled, she got a $250,000 prize and a one-year contract with the company. She wrestled for the company until July of 2008. So 3 years. I did not wrestle for any other company or any other entity before or after her time with WWE. Now, when she won, she was told that she could choose to accept the prize money, and rather than work for WWE as a wrestler, she could serve as the quote-unquote face of the women's division. That is what she accepted. It was her understanding that she would receive the full $250,000 and would not be required to wrestle, but would work for WWE in a spokesmodel capacity for 1 year. After she signed her contract, Vince McMahon insisted she had been represented by a man named Rich in Marina del Rey, California, and tried to force her to pay 20% of the $250,000 to him, to the man. The man did not represent her, so she did not, which almost resulted in her losing her job. What the? And of course, everybody in wrestling is considered an independent contractor. Companies, it's the wrestling company's way of getting away with not providing insurance, not providing retirement, stuff like that. If they call you an independent contractor, that becomes your responsibility. She received a concussion multiple of them. She was never trained how to be on the receiving end of moves. She was knocked unconscious for 5 minutes, received no treatment. And Trish Stratus told her to shake it off. She was trying to help and give her advice because she knew from experience that Ashley would get in trouble if she said anything. And she asked Stephanie McMahon about being trained. So even though Stephanie told her not to train on her days off, which is preposterous, she did anyway. And then Stephanie found out and told her she had to stop. They didn't know anything about the gym where she was training. Oh, blow. You know, all wrestlers train on their days off, whether it's working out, whether it's perfecting new moves, whatever it is, they train. So Stephanie can go blow a stack somewhere. I mean, you know. She had a fracture in her spine, numerous back injuries, and was diagnosed with herniated discs in C4 and C5. That's in the middle of the neck. She got a fracture of her leg in a women's battle royal on February 20th, 2006. that went around her leg bone twice, and a piece of bone became loose. And they had her kidnapped by Mickey James storyline, and she had to fall out of her chair. Not only that, but she was put in a position where she could be fallen on and was fallen on by Trish, causing further damage to her already injured leg. She had to have more surgery in 2008, and in 2010, even more surgery, this time on the ankle. She shattered a knuckle. She had to be in a cast for 4 weeks. A week or two later, Vince McMahon wanted me to perform. He ordered the cast sawed off. Paul London witnessed this. She was one of 4 performers chosen to go on a 2-week tour in support of our troops in Afghanistan, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. The other performers were Maria Kanellis, Ron Simmons, and Jimmy Hart. Gary Hart was also in attendance in a supervisory role. Gary Hart was an amazing manager who had much backstage experience as well. In Kuwait, she had female cramps, menstrual cramps, and asked to rest in the Humvee in the air conditioning during a break. But the Army said, nah, you just have dehydration. They notified Gary Hart and took her to a nearby military base in Kuwait. Jimmy Hart did come to check on her. Jimmy Hart said that he and the rest of the group were going to get lunch. A man came in a t-shirt and shorts, orange t-shirt and shorts, and they said he was a doctor and that it was his birthday, but all the other doctors had scrubs, so she was a little confused. He put an IV in her opposite arm. The woman guarded the door while the man put a drug in the IV, which left her paralyzed. He raped her. He sodomized her. She was absolutely brutalized. Gary Hart rescued her, brought her back to the hotel, put her to bed. She woke up 3 hours later, and shortly thereafter, Maria Canales came to her room because Gary told her, look, there's something wrong. She told Jimmy, Ron, and Maria not to tell anyone what happened. I'm actually surprised. Finally, the tour was over. And her ticket to London was missing. They couldn't get another ticket, and Gary Hart couldn't get in touch with WWE's travel coordinators to get a ticket. So they made her stay overnight in the hotel. By herself. And Dr. Rios actually set up a meeting with her and questioned her about the incident. She thought maybe something showed up in her drug test, or that someone on the crew had said something. Yeah, I think Gary Hart did. He was the only one you told not to. You didn't tell not to. You told Ron, Maria, and someone else not to. You did not tell Gary Hart not to. And it's his duty as your boss and your protector, which he tried to be. I will say that for Gary Hart. He tried. Dr. Rios had to tell Vince, who informed Kevin Dunn, who was like the main, he was more of a television producer than anything. I'm not sure why. John Laurinaitis, who was in charge of talent relations, so he had to be informed. And several other company executives and lawyers that I had never met before and had a meeting with them. And Vince told her to keep it confidential. However, he did not want it out because he didn't want to ruin the WWE's relationship with the military over one bad experience. Screw you, Vince. The women were often forced to leave in their ring gear, which is skimpy because they're not so much today, though. Covers a little more today. And they now she talks about and WWE didn't always pay for flights. Well, no, wrestling companies don't generally pay for flights for anybody. Unless, okay, the exception would be, ouch, international, or in the case of someone like the fallen angel Christopher Daniels, if a company, he lives on the West Coast, if a company on the East Coast wants to bring him in, they will more than likely pay for that. And they will put him up somewhere. Because he's a name. And he will draw them money. And they know that. And he will give a great performance. They know that. So they're willing to pay him to do the show, but also pay accommodations for him and a flight. But indies have to make that monetary sacrifice to get in top guys like a Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles when he was on the indies. They have to make that financial sacrifice in order to get those names. Whereas the WWE doesn't have to. She also battled addiction from the pain of her injuries. They did pay for her rehab, and they do send her tiny royalty checks, or did. Now, this was my note. John Laurinaitis, as I mentioned, his brother Joe, Road Warrior Animal, started the concussion suit. John may have felt divided loyalties. And he may have done things against his better judgment to stay in good with Vince. This was my opinion once I realized that it was Joe that started the whole darn thing. That had to be tough for him. Unless he has no morals whatsoever. His brother has since passed away from a heart attack. This poor girl went through so much. She was not properly trained, which I have screamed from the rooftops about wrestlers not being properly trained. In fact, she wasn't trained at all. She was assaulted in an intimate manner. She had horrible injuries, which were caused to be worse by causing her to work in some capacity with them, which is very common in wrestling. You will see it. And you can't tell whether this is a worked injury, meaning a work, fake, or whether it's an actual injury that they're being forced to work through. You just don't know. And so, I think it's unfortunate that Judge Vanessa Bryant dismissed the case. At very least, she should have taken that affidavit, and I don't know what was in the other affidavits. Boy, would I like to get a hold of them, and I will be searching for them, and if I find anything more, anything more like that, I will definitely share it with you in future videos. Like I said, either tomorrow or Sunday, I'm going to be doing a news video on this channel. I need to write that first. So, it still turned into a half-hour video, but it's okay. In the end, Ashley ended her own life. I can't blame Gary Hart, because I believe, she said he was banging on the door. He finally got in. He scooped her up, got her to safety. It was all he could do. He tried to get her a flight. There was nothing else he could do. And that tells me a lot about Gary Hart. And I have much respect for him. And God bless him in heaven. Thank you so much for joining me. God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will see you tomorrow or Sunday. Bye, guys.